sorry, we do expect to post this recording on our website as soon as we can get it available after tonight. I also wanted to add in that our thoughts and prayers are with Israel, and what's happening over there. With that, I'll turn it over now to Tom Hildner, who's our moderator.
Okay, thanks, Dave. Good evening, everybody. I'm going to take a little time now to go over the format of the rules of the forum. So this is a timed forum, so time will be monitored strictly both for fairness and brevity. I will be in charge of determining the order in which each of the candidates speaks, and will endeavor to make that selection random and fair. Candidates' responses will be timed. I will give you a 30-second warning before requesting you to stop. Please respect the time limits for the forum and be diligent with your time. Audience members will be allowed to ask questions in part 3 of the forum. You may direct your question to specific candidates or to all candidates by using the link you will find in the chat, as just mentioned by Dave. If you have more than one question, and if we get through the first round of questions, we will try to ask your remaining questions. Please note that we reserve the right to reject a question, so please keep your questions appropriate and on point. We are here to discuss township issues, not personal agendas or unrelated matters. Now, part 1 of the evening tonight are the candidates' opening remarks. Each candidate will have a maximum of 3 minutes for his or her remarks. Following opening remarks, we will have some preset questions. These are questions that the Short Hills Association has given the candidates prior to the debate. Each candidate received 3 questions. All candidates have been given the same 3 questions and will be asked to respond in turn to each question in their own words. Each candidate will be given a maximum response time of 3 minutes for each question. Following these questions, we'll have a 5-minute intermission, during which audience members may submit their questions by using the link previously published, mentioned by Dave, and also found in the chat. Before we go into audience questions, we will have this intermission, and then we'll proceed directly into the questions. Once again, we reserve the right to reject any question, and we're going to seek to avoid repetitious and inappropriate questions. But again, we'll make every attempt to be fair and impartial in the selection of questions that, given the time allotted. Candidates will be given 2 minutes to respond to each question. If the question is addressed to a particular candidate, that candidate will be allowed to respond first. Other candidates will also be allowed to respond briefly, maximum of 2 minutes, hopefully less, if they request the opportunity to do so. If they request that opportunity, we'll accommodate that. The final part of the debate is the candidate's closing remarks. And this will be 3 minutes for each candidate. All right. With that said, I'd like to begin with the opening remarks. Millburn needs more than issue-specific solutions. It requires visionary leadership backed by experience. Tell us, candidates, why are you running for the Township Committee? How will your background and experience empower you to address broader challenges from overdevelopment to infrastructure planning? What would you like to accomplish if elected? I'd like to begin with Sharu.
Thank you.
Sure.
Good evening, everyone. First, I would like to thank Millburn Short Hills Association for organizing this forum, and thanks to everyone for coming in tonight. First off, I would like to take a moment to pray for Israel. I'm profoundly heartbroken by the devastating news coming out of Israel. My thoughts and prayers are with Jewish community. Let's join together and pray for peace and safety of all the people of Israel. Thank you. My name is Sharu Goyal. I'm a Millburn resident since 2016, and I'm a proud Democrat. I staunchly believe in democratic principles, giving back transparency, and advocating for those who can advocate for themselves. And I have been able to achieve all this while living here in Melbourne. I'm a mom of two and have an elder daughter who has gone through all Melbourne public school systems, and my son who is right now in third grade at Deerfield Elementary School, and my daughter in Melbourne High School. I have volunteered in multiple capacities at Deerfield Elementary School and helped the victims who were impacted by the flood Ida. I am a member of Melbourne Inspire organization. I'm a member of Community Service Award Committee that recognizes the work of volunteers. Why I want to run for Melbourne Township Committee? Right now, there are multiple challenges that are being faced by a Melbourne Township. One for sure is the visionary leadership that is needed for Melbourne Township. Regarding my professional experience, I have been in finance industry for almost 20 years in various leadership roles and currently heading payments at Bank of America. Recently, I was awarded by United States American Banker magazine as the most influential women in payments in the world for my work towards improving economic growth overall during the times of COVID crisis, and also doing challenging work in terms of managing payments, streamlining the payment flows, and helping our consumers all over the US. And I want to leverage my financial experience for our town, for our community, and for our residents. I have the right experience. I have the proven capability of managing multi-billion-dollar portfolios, consensus building, navigating the town through complex issues, situations such as overdevelopment and infrastructure. And I want to ensure there is right transparency, accountability. There is no room for hatred, which I have been observing during this past campaign. There is no bullying activity around, because as a mom of two, I intend to keep this town hate-free. And no, there's no space for bullying at all in our town. I ask for your support to make sure that our town is moving forward in the most positive and responsible way. Look what we have done with affordable housing. Had this been addressed 30 years ago by our Republican-controlled township committee, we would not have seen overdevelopment. Look, in Livingston, Livingston, which is 1.5 times more than
30 seconds.
1.5 times bigger than our town, is at 20% less because they met the obligation 30 years ago. Had Melbourne done that, there had been no overdevelopment. Again, the problem creators cannot be the problem solution. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Sharu. Next, I would call upon Frank Saccomondi. Frank?
Good evening, everyone. First off, I would like to say that our hearts go out to the residents of Israel during this tragic and challenging period. Thank you to the Short Hills Association for organizing this forum and to the audience for tuning in. My name is Frank Saccomondi. I am running for Melbourne Township Committee because the soul of Melbourne is at risk. The core qualities that we all moved here for, exceptional schools, safety and security, and the tranquil suburban setting, are under threat. With no public input, our township forced through radical overdevelopment plans that will overwhelm our schools, roads, and critical services. Car thefts have tripled compared to 5 years ago, yet our township continues to underreport crime and underallocate police resources. Our single-party controlled township committee focuses more on ingratiating themselves with Trenton politicians than with respecting Melbourne residents. Our interests are being sacrificed to appease the dictates of a powerful political machine. Prior to last year, I'd been a Democrat for more than 10 years, but upon seeing the ills of single-party rule in our beloved town, I switched parties to run against Melbourne's Democrat machine because I cared deeply for our community. Melbourne means the world to me. I am an IT infrastructure engineer at a hedge fund in Manhattan with over 15 years of experience. I routinely work with global teams to build consensus and address mission-critical problems. I have managed 8-figure budgets, negotiated large contracts, and managed complex transitions. I approach problems with an engineering mindset. I don't simply accept consultant advice or partisan narratives at face value. Rather, I investigate the facts and dig into the details before crafting solutions. This approach is what Melbourne needs right now. Your vote will determine Melbourne's future direction. Ben and I have stepped up to educate and activate the community. We are the only candidates with comprehensive plans and a firm commitment to preserving and protecting Melbourne Short Hills. I want to take a moment to correct the record. At last night's forum, True accused me of disparaging her service on the Volunteer Award Committee, which she somehow distorted and extended to hurl all manner of ad hominem attacks in my direction. I was not disparaging her or any of her any volunteers. Rather, I was pointing out that sitting on an awards committee that meets once a quarter and whose sole purpose is to give out awards is not sufficient preparation to serve on the township committee, which handles a $65 million budget. In contrast, Ben and I have spent hundreds of hours preparing for and participating in township committee meetings for the last 2 years to demand transparency
30
and
seconds.
responsible governance. We have studied affordable housing and crime, both here and in comparable towns, putting in the effort to understand the issues. We are fully prepared to discuss them tonight, and we ask our opponents to give residents the courtesy of staying focused on issues rather than baseless smears and character assassination. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll next call upon Bruce Kramer. Bruce?
And thanks everyone for their thoughts and prayers for Israel. Just as a heads up, today is a holiday, and it's very possible that some people need to go to synagogue early by about 8:30, so some people will be dropping out. So hi everyone, I'm Bruce Kramer, running for a Democratic ticket of Millburn Township Committee, along with my running mate, Sharu Goel. I would like to thank the Short Hills Association for hosting this event. I do need to set the record straight about the recent Historic Preservation Commission meeting. The misinformation and lies seem to infiltrate every moment. My vote of no on the HPC was a vote for the residents to force the issue of opening the meeting for public comments, hearing their concerns, and listen. We gather together, and my vote was to give them the opportunity to voice their opinions, not dismiss them. I am a representative of the community and wanted to hear them, not shut them down. So I've been living in Millburn for 14 years. My wife, Jessica Channon, has been living here 27 years. We have a blended family of 4 adult children and 4 grandchildren. 2 of our adult children, Gil Kaplan and Daniela Kaplan, have gone through the Millburn school system from kindergarten through high school. I'm a graduate of Brew College, and I don't have to lie about that. I'm a certified public accountant licensed in New York and New Jersey. I was a partner in the firm of Cohen Resnick. I'm currently working part-time in my own accounting practice. Some of my volunteerism includes being on the executive committees of the Lakewood Chamber of Commerce and the Greater Monmouth Chamber of Commerce, a trustee of Monmouth Medical Center, serving on a strategic planning committee and the finance committee, president of the New Jersey Medical Group Management Association, and currently a commissioner on Historic Preservation Commission, and a member of the Board of Managers Emeritus of the East Orange YMCA, which is closest to my heart because it gives parents the ability to have their children be in a safe place while they can go to work. I've been a proud member of the Democratic Party my entire life. I have volunteered for the party in numerous capacities, including as a poll challenger, and I'm knowledgeable about the issues that are facing our town today. I've been endorsed by the Jewish Caucus of the New Jersey Democratic Party. I'm a volunteer for Be Smart for Kids, which promotes gun safety. I've been selected as a gun sense candidate for Moms Demand Action, and I've been invited to
30 seconds.
A group that works on electing gun sense candidates. CPAs are considered independent, and I am an independent thinker. I'm a strong believer of the pay it forward concept. People know me and consider me to be helpful, open to discussion, extremely friendly, very honest, trustworthy, a person of deep integrity and collaborative business style. That's the philosophy I'll bring to the Township Committee. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much, Bruce. Now I'd call upon Ben Stoller to give your opening remarks.
Thank you, Tom. I also spoke to family in Israel today, just horrific. My condolences and best wishes. My name is Ben Stoller. I've been a resident of this area since 1999, specifically in Millburn since 2015. My wife and I moved to Millburn because of the great school system, low crime, proximity to New York City, and the airports, and the collegial small town feel. We have 4 children, all of whom have attended or are currently attending MSH public schools. I have volunteered and coached in various recreational sports in towns, including volleyball, girls soccer, wrestling, baseball, football. This has been a great experience for me to spend time with my children, teach and mentor other children, and build relationships with parents that last a lifetime. I began my career as a financial analyst in mergers and acquisitions and have since held numerous roles of increasing responsibility. Currently, I am the co-founder and manager of a private equity type holding company of environmentally friendly companies rooted in supply chain and logistics. with the singular goal of eliminating CO2 emissions and reducing waste in the supply chain. I am also the sitting past chairman of the National Reusable and Packaging Association. I believe that we are slowly seeing the erosion of all the elements that make Millburn great, a great place to live, due to a dereliction of fiduciary duty and responsibility by our township committee. Residents are not being listened to, and the governance and decision-making of our town has been passed on to municipal lawyers, planning lawyers, town planners, and a town administrator, all of whom do not have any skin in the game or possibly could be conflicted. There is zero accountability, transparency, or good governance by our current TC. I am running for TC to bring back proven real-world decision-making in areas such as strategy, operations, and financial planning, and bring some real leadership to the team. Right here in town, we have the best and brightest people from every walk and avenue. We have business, finance, marketing, education, mental health, environmentalists, and so much more. Yet the current TC does not seek out or utilize these resources. In order to benefit from resident experts' participation, it is important to eliminate divisive politics in town so we may all collaborate for the best outcomes for our town and families. Thank you to everyone who made this event happen. We will listen to all residents in Manassas Township with critical, methodical, and practical decision-making. We thank you for the opportunity to earn your vote.
Hey, thank you, Ben. Now, before we go on to what we call the preset questions, I'm going to take a point of personal privilege because you've all been frozen during all of this, somewhat unnerving. So hopefully I'll be
Frozen.
Well, I don't know if I'm still frozen for me, but that's all right. I don't want you to be frozen because I want to be able to go to see your faces while you're talking. All right, this is the second part of our program, and these are the three questions that we are going to ask each candidate to ask. So the first question is, please identify the four most important issues facing our town and tell us when and how the Township Committee should address them. I'll ask Frank to begin the responses.
Thank you. So the top four issues are overdevelopment, crime and safety, respect for resident input, and rejecting outside influence. Crime will be discussed in a later question, so I'll talk mainly about overdevelopment, and Ben will address the remaining points. The most pressing issue that must be addressed immediately is to push back on the unrealistic overdevelopment plans that were agreed to with no public input. The most problematic part of the plan is the 75-unit income-segregated housing project slated for the contaminated town dump. Not only does this project vastly exceed our town's affordable housing obligation, the exclusionary nature is offensive to our community's values. The Township Committee is giving away property worth millions, paying for environmental cleanup, and exposing Millburn to unlimited legal liability if remediation is not done properly. The project will not contribute any tax revenue to our schools. Simply put, we do not need to build housing on the dump. Despite what our opponents may say, there is significant legal basis to stop the dump project because it's part of our town's unmet need, which can be addressed through rezoning. Our opponents blame Republicans for kicking the can down the road for decades. This is patently false. Prior to 2015, there was no can to kick. Since the 1960s, Millburn has been considered a fully developed community and had complied with all Mount Laurel obligations until 2015, which is when the law changed and began applying to fully developed towns like Millburn. Since 2017, the Township Committee has had a Democratic supermajority. The continued supermajority botched the affordable housing issue, leading to this fiasco. The facts are undeniable. In 2017, during discussions on the Woodland Road project, Democrats dragged their feet and failed to file the legal action needed to secure immunity from fair share housing. The housing plan was filed 3 days late, even though they had months to do so. The responsibility for this radical overdevelopment lies not with any administration prior to 2015, but with the Democrats who failed to meet this deadline. This was the ultimate dereliction of duty. Ben and I do not oppose affordable housing, but we are staunchly opposed to irresponsible overdevelopment rammed through under the guise of affordable housing, ultimately lining the pockets of well-connected developers instead of helping the very folks it is meant to help lift up. We can do better, and we plan to do the following. We will properly inventory existing apartments that have rents that are already at levels considered to be affordable. Given the 20% vacancy rate, amongst existing rental units, there are hundreds of units sitting empty. We will work with property owners to refresh,
30
rehab,
seconds.
and redeed these units so they can be counted towards our obligation. In the 2025 round of affordable housing, we will prioritize the provisioning of integrated affordable senior housing. This allows empty nesters to stay in our community and limits the number of students brought to the schools. It's also essential because in Essex County, there is a dearth of affordable senior housing. So we think this is something that's much needed. Thank you.
All right, thanks very much, Frank. Next, I'm ask Bruce to respond to this question.
Tom, if I could interrupt Bruce, sorry, just for 1 second. I got one comment from the audience saying that they can't see Bruce and Sharu. Now, I can see you perfectly fine. Tom, can you see them all right on the
I
screen?
can, yes, I can.
Okay, so let's just continue on. Sorry, folks.
All right, so we're it's question number 1, and we're asking Bruce to give his response.
Okay, thank you. So the first issue I'm going to talk about is taxes, real estate taxes. So the Republicans continue with their scare tactics of saying Millburn has the highest real estate taxes in the state and one of the highest in the country. While we do have high real estate taxes, it's because we also have a very high real estate values in our town. What we really should be looking at is what is the general real estate tax rate per thousand of assessed value. Millburn Short Hills has the lowest general real estate tax rate in the county of Essex. Being that Charo and I are financial professionals, we have the financial skills to monitor our expenses and keep our taxes low. In my career, clients come to depend on me for my frugal fiscal responsibility. The township has also been doing a great job with flood mitigation, which is a big issue. We will continue to prepare for climate change, and will continue to use the Flood Mitigation Advisory Committee, which has made great strides in addressing the flood control matters. We will work with Essex County and Raritan River Mayor's Council to continue with that good work. As far as safety and crime goes, while auto thefts around the country and in New Jersey are up, auto thefts in Millburn is actually down. Car thefts and burglaries in 2022 was a total of 156. In 2023 through July, there was only 61. I can't believe that Republicans insulted Chief Gilfetter by saying that the police are not doing their job. We have the best police force in Essex County. Millburn Police Department has invested in new surveillance equipment, and including equipment and license plate readers, to be able to track and retrieve stolen cars. We have encouraged the formation of neighborhood watch groups, and with the support of the Millburn Police Department, the Poet section has already established a successful watch group. There are now 4 other neighborhoods that are currently exploring watch groups. The town is in the process of installing cameras within the schools, which have a direct connection to the police departments, which will enable them for quick responses. We will continue to work with the police department to give them the tools that they need. Now, as far as communication and transparency, we do want to have a transparent government. We have some of the brightest minds, and with their knowledge and expertise on residential resource tables, we'll get input from residents on various matters on a regular basis. As
30
I said in
seconds.
my opening, I, along with Charo, are for open discussion with anybody. I am in the service business and understand the importance of good and open communication. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Bruce. Next, I would ask Ben to respond to our first question.
Sure. Just to finish on Frank's statements regarding the overdevelopment, we will promote the development of affordable low-density townhomes that qualified applicants can purchase. Home ownership gives residents pride of ownership, additional stability, and the opportunity to build equity, i.e. general wealth. We also partner with the Board of Education to commission accurate, unbiased school impact studies to understand the urgency of long-term school expansion plans, as has been done in Chatham. I'll now move on to respecting resident input and rejecting outside influence. Since last year, many residents have seen firsthand the ills of single-party Democratic rule at local, county, and state levels. Our candidates are conflating democracy with being a Democrat. After speaking to thousands of residents, we have heard the community loud and clear. Residents are fed up with partisan politics, especially in our local township elections. Many regret their party line vote has led to failed leadership in our town Residents now recognize the importance of removing outside influence from our local elections. It's not enough to elect candidates this time around who will promise to do better. Residents crave structural reform and desire safeguards for Millburn for generations to come. Last year's independent candidate for Township Committee, Dave Morrow, published a thought-provoking letter to the editor in which he asked all candidates in this year's Township Committee election to commit to putting a referendum on the ballot to move nonpartisan local government. We have committed to this exactly. We see no reason why residents should be denied a voice in how they choose to be governed. Our opponents have not publicly committed to this call for a referendum. Yesterday, Bruce Kramer claimed that nonpartisan elections would mean that the Board of Education would be appointed by the local governing body. He cited Montclair as an example. He is wrong on both counts. Nonpartisan local governments take many forms, most of which have no impact on how the Board of Education operates. As part of the referendum, there would be a study as to which form of local government would make the most sense in our community. Furthermore, as of 2023, Montclair residents vote directly for BOE members, just like we do here in Millburn. Either Bruce has not done his research, or he's trying to use misinformation and mischaracterizations to cover up the facts that Bruce and Sharo do not care about what residents think. Either way, this is not the type of leadership that Millburn residents deserve. We want to earn your vote. Frank and I welcome input from all residents, regardless of political party. You hear them say Republican over and over. We have been running a
30 seconds.
based on inclusiveness, and residents joined our movement. We have support from Republicans, Democrats, and independents. We have received more dollars from individual Democrats and independents than we have from the Essex County Republican organization. We have neither sought nor received money from any state or national Republican Party organization. I want to make that clear to Bruce and Sharu.
Okay, thank you. Last, Sharu, would you please give us your response to our first question?
Hi. Well, I'm smiling here because right now my Republican opponent who misconstrued what he actually said, I want to respond back to him about some of the things such as community service and the volunteering work. Let me read his actual words, how he degraded the volunteers and the people who are committed to serving our town. He said, being on a committee whose sole purpose is to hand out awards hardly counts as a public service. Can I tell you, it is insulting and demotivating to me and our residents who have volunteered their time and efforts in this committee and to improve the quality of life of our community. The building block on which community service stands is that no job is too small and every drop counts. Elaine Baker had started this committee since 1991 and has researched, selected people from our Millburn Township that has contributed significantly for our community. Volunteering is the spirit of America. And Frank has not yet apologized to me and to hundreds of residents for disparaging and insulting the volunteering services by calling this committee as worthless. And this is what we want our leaders to be there for Millburn. It's up to you to decide. And I still want an apology from Frank, and he has not yet apologized to our residents for calling this volunteering service as worthless. My issues for Millburn is absolutely, I would begin with saying overdevelopment, which our Republican opponents are saying, which I think they don't even understand, or their inexperience and immaturity, because had they been involved in the slightest of the fair share housing, they would have known since 1975, and when this Montreal was signed in 1987 until 1999, Millburn was obligated for only 109 units. I repeat, 109 units from 1987 to 1999. But a Republican-controlled TC did not address anything. At the same time, Livingston was obligated to have 375 units. I repeat, 375. Livingston had complied to the obligation and actually constructed 402 units. So they were in deficit of 27 units. But when the court met again in around 1999, because Republicans did not do anything, they mandated for 800% more. I repeat, 800% more. Let's get the facts straight. Republicans, opponents do not spread misinformation and lies. Because of your negligence, right now the town is obligated to build 800% more than what it was required
Please
to build.
stop. Thank you. All right. We'll now go on to our second question, which states as follows. Crime is a major concern of the residents of our community. What specific measures do you propose should be taken by the Township Committee regarding crime at the Short Hills Mall, in our downtown area, and in our residential neighborhoods? And I would like Bruce to begin responses to this.
Sure, thank you. So regarding crime, as I previously indicated, crime was actually down in Millburn Township from the prior year, even though crime is up throughout the country and throughout the state. Crime in Millburn is lower than the crime in the surrounding towns. According to the Millburn Police Department, the majority of auto thefts happen because people leave their key fobs in the car and the doors unlocked. The Township Police Department continues to issue regular reminders for people to lock their doors and remove their key fobs, but people just don't seem to always comply with that. The Republicans showed a video of a post office worker being attacked. While that is very, very disturbing, that's happening throughout the country. That's not just happening here in Millburn. They showed this, again, horrendous theft that happened in the Short Hills Mall. Well, look what's going on with all the smash and grabs that's going on through the country. Just in Philadelphia last week, there was a horrible incident. Stores like Target is actually closing stores because of all the smash and grabs and robberies that are going on. It's a problem throughout the country that's we're trying best to try to resolve. But we do have a terrific police department, and we will work closely with them to monitor the criminal behavior, and with our professional police department, develop plans on how to mitigate this trend. We recently hired 2 additional police officers and implemented license plate readers and other things that cannot be shared due to confidentiality. But we're on the right track in watching what's going on with crime in this town. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and I will now ask Ben to respond to the second question.
Sure, thank you. Low crime was one reason our family moved here many years ago. Unfortunately, crime is up in Millburn. We realize that crime is up statewide and nationally. However, it has escalated more here than in any other neighboring towns. In 2015, Millburn and Summit each had 9 car thefts. In 2021, Millburn had 43 car thefts versus 24 in Summit. Criminals are now getting more brazen. Even if your car is locked, they're starting to break into homes to steal key fobs. In the first 8 months of the year, there were 18 home burglars, compared to 7 during the same period last year. That's a 250% increase. At the most recent Township Committee meeting, our team asked why the summary statistics are inconsistent with the police blotter. Their answer was, and that's the TC, not the police chief, if a suspect breaks into your home, steals a fob, and then steals a car, that's only counted as a home burglary, not a car theft. Does that make any sense to anyone? We believe our Township Committee is underreporting crime. Whether it is negligent or intentional, it's unacceptable. My professional world is all about analytics and making informed decisions. If you don't measure something, you can't fix it. We will start by honestly and transparently reporting the true rate of crime in our community. We need to immediately commission a workforce study to understand how much staffing we need. Currently, there are only 3 officers on duty overnight. Neighboring communities have more than 3 times that. The Township Committee in June put out a press release, and Bruce just echoed it, stating 2 additional police officers were hired.
30 seconds.
Bruce is misleading. After a little investigative work and speaking with other officers in town, we found out that these 2 new officers who haven't even attended the police academy yet were going to replace veteran officers who retired early. This is a net zero gain. Actually, it's a loss of 50 years of policing experience. We need to focus on delivering results to residents, not spinning narratives as an excuse for inaction. Yesterday, Sharu spoke about enlisting residents, including children, to fight crime as part of the formation of an auxiliary police force.
Please stop.
That's the insult to the police chief.
All right, thank you very much. Sharu, may we have your response to this second question?
Well, again, thank you. And I'm again smiling of the lies, misconstrued facts, again, yet again. And I don't know how many times I have to repeat this. So in response to what Ben just said, well, yesterday night, before even I could complete, and I mentioned apart from all the solutions and the planning I provided for public safety and pedestrian safety, and apart from all the great work which our police department is doing right now, I suggested an option out of my creative mind that, hey, to give opportunity and to attract more community engagement. I repeat, Ben, I think I have to repeat multiple times to have that in your mind so that you cannot lie anymore, is that I repeat, community engagement, a voluntary community engagement where we can have an auxiliary community where our Milburn graduates, college graduates, can choose a path different from a college path in case they wanted to stay here in Milburn to pursue something, and they can be into a civic formation for community engagement, working with police or working with fire department. And that's something we all as residents can look into as a forward and a positive plan for Milburn. That's my response again. And I'm sure they're gonna lie it around and misconstrue it next time around. So public safety is an important issue for me. It has grown up, not in New Jersey, but everywhere in the world, everywhere in the country right now. My plan is to, if elected, I want to strengthen our public safety, pedestrian safety, have wider crosswalks, have more open spaces for our children to play so that they can bike and walk safely. Well, police officers, yes, I want to review with the town, with our with the planners, and to see where we can hire more police
30 seconds.
I want to also say that our Milburn Township right now has also started working on a project to have fiber optics directly attached to our from the school going directly attached to the police department to catch any proactive activity. So that's another thing I want to continue the efforts. I want to have more lights in the parking lots to have more visibility. And that's my—
Please stop.
Sorry, thank you.
Thank you. All right. Frank, may we have your response to this second question?
Sure. Before we start, can we have the other panelists mute their microphones when they're not speaking? That'd be helpful.
All right.
All right, so I urge everyone to review last night's Milburn Short Hills Chinese Association debate to see exactly what Chiru said with regards to creating an auxiliary police force. I think you'll find that it differs from what she said tonight. We need to create a culture of awareness and inform residents of what is going on so that they can take action. If we want to change state-level catch and release programs, we need residents to become outraged and contact their state representatives to advocate for tighter laws. We will look into what legal actions the town can take against the governor and the attorney general to further tighten the laws so that crime will once again have consequences. Right now, if a car is stolen on your street, you might not even realize it or hear about it. Our township should be more proactive in notifying neighbors when incidents do occur to help encourage vigilance. A weekly email telling residents to lock their car doors is not enough, especially since criminals are now breaking into homes to steal key fobs. We should station police cars at the entrance and exits to town. This would deter would-be criminals from entering our community. Summit does this, Livingston does this. There's no reason why we can't do this. In fact, by not doing this, we are essentially inviting would-be criminals to come raid our community. I am glad to see license plate readers have finally been installed. This is something I asked for last year. However, stolen car data from many other towns is on a 24-hour delay before entering our system, severely limiting the effectiveness of these readers. We must work more closely with other towns to get real-time stolen car data into our license plate reader system. We want to create a See Something, Say Something app. The idea of the app would be for residents to snap a photo if they see suspicious activity. The photo would then get geotagged and sent directly to the police department. We could help enlist the high school computer science program to help develop this app. We will also look into adding Nixle, a real-time emergency alert system. Summit has already been using this system very effectively, and it allows them to alert residents to ongoing situations in town. Regarding crime at the Short Hills Mall, it is critical for us to work with the mall to improve security measures currently in place. Just this year, there were 2 separate incidents where more than $120,000 of merchandise was stolen from the mall. In May, it was from the Dior store, and just last month, it was from Neiman Marcus. The mall contributes a huge portion of taxes to our town, and we must protect it. If this crime wave continues unabated, many of these stores may decide to shutter, permanently damaging not only our town's revenue stream, but also our town's reputation and desirability. Our police department should work hand in hand with mall security teams to coordinate
30
their
seconds.
resources and ensure that these thefts do not occur. I also take offense to our opponents saying that we have in any way disparaged the police chief. The Millburn Police Department does a great job protecting our residents, but I think that they need more resources, and we will commission the proper workforce studies to ensure that they have all of the resources and staffing that they need. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We'll now proceed with our third of the preset questions, and that is this. Please identify 3 significant policy successes, if any, and 3 significant policy failures, if any, of the Township Committee during the last 2 years, and provide the reasons why you describe them as successes or failures. And I'd like to begin with Ben on this.
Great, thank you. Many of our Township Committee policy successes actually are a result of undoing what were initially policy failures. In January 2023, with no resident input, the Township Committee moved to unilaterally cancel the Zoom participation option. However, our team, along with many concerned residents, pushed back against the town, and we succeeded in persuading the TC to reinstate this option. There's no justifiable reason for why the Zoom option should have been removed to begin with. It offers significant participation to residents. The Par 3 course. A few months later, after that incident, the Township Committee moved to destroy the Par 3 golf course, a jewel in our community. Again, only after residents showed up in force to express their outrage about this issue did the committee back down. Destroying the golf course to replace it with fields would have been much more costly than they projected and would have caused significant environmental impacts such as flooding. The controversy surrounding the proposed destruction of the golf course led to increased community engagement. It forced both the community and the Township Committee to critically examine the availability of fields and venues in Millburn, including dialogue with the BOE to utilize their fields. It is also important to note that while preserving the Par 3 golf course can be seen as a success, it also highlights an ongoing challenge, the lack of new sports complexes in Millburn compared to other New Jersey towns. I've been to all of them. We need new sports complexes. Careful planning and community involvement will get there. Nonpartisan elections debate. This topic was presented as a motion by Tara Prupis during a TC meeting. It was swiftly met by disdain and an actual comment from one TC member that, quote, "Why would we ever vote affirmative on that if we Dems control the TC committee?" Unquote. By failing to listen to
30
residents,
seconds.
propagated the negative, divisive nature of our local politics. Then the Marywood Nottingham. Bruce claims his Marywood Nottingham vote on historic preservation a few days ago was to allow residents in the area to be heard. The problem is he didn't understand that if he did not table the motion, it would have been voted through and the TC would have been allowed to vote and ram it through as an ordinance. This is problematic in so many ways. I applaud Allison Canfield for taking politics out of the decision and providing for robust and complete public sessions with each of the affected districts.
Please stop.
Lanewise team was okay with it.
Thank you. All right. Sharu, would you give us your response to this third question?
Thank you. I would like to begin with saying that there had been multiple policies that I want to talk about. First off is the one which is for flood mitigation efforts for our township. I had been the first-hand witness of how a lot of families faced crises during flood, where I helped out removing debris, water from their homes. Our town is actually, water flows into our town via two valleys that run through our town. And at the tip of those two valleys are the rivers. The lowest point is the river, Rahway River East Branch, Rahway River West Branch, and the Van Winkle Brook Branch. So at any point in time, a town is so vulnerable with flooding, whether be it Glenwood, whether be it South Mountain area, or whether be at our Main Street in Millburn, downtown. So we have to be really, really proactive and make sure that we are continuing with the flood mitigation processes, wherein we have been able to identify homes for house elevation projects. where the house will be moved up so that the water do not clog their main rooms. And right now, 80% of that house elevation project will be funded by the federal and the 20% by the residents. Then there's another project to have more pipelines so that the water can come out when it starts to get filled up very quickly. So this is the effort I want to continue working on flood mitigation activities. Second is, the important issue is to promote our local businesses. Explore Millburn Short Hills has been created in 2020 at the height of COVID that gave a lifeline to our businesses with a gift certificate program, which helped them with cash flow. The commercial vacancy is now down from 16% to 3%. 98% businesses have opened. And many a times, this wonderful effort had been opposed by Ben and Frank. Do they want our businesses to go down? I want our local businesses to thrive. I am a proponent of local businesses and education, whereas the supporters of Ben and Frank had called me a child labor on many occasions, which you can tell that, we are moving forward and not want to be brought down. CEDA is another program which is wonderful running in Millburn, and I want to continue. That is the Cultural Engagement, Diversity, and Arts Committee, which was established under our leader, under the Democratic's leadership, which has introduced a lot of events, Chinese, Asian, and cultural events. I want to promote
30 seconds.
diversity in the town. The most important issue which I find and which I want to really work on is, again, affordable housing. We have to do it in a very responsible way. We are a welcoming community. I want to give opportunity to our teachers, to our nurses to have their children study over here. Overdevelopment is a problem, but look, we are in this problem because, again, it was not resolved in a timely manner. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right. Frank, would you give us your response, please?
Thank you. 3 of the biggest policy failures over the last 2 years are related to fair share housing settlement. The approval process, the agreement itself, and the lack of future planning are all policy failures. First, let us review how the Township Committee negotiated and approved this agreement without hearing any input from residents. In July of 2021, the Township Committee professionals advised them that they could not discuss the contents of the settlement agreement to residents as per a court order. However, after our team appeared at a court hearing and inquired about this supposed order, the judge denied that any such order existed. We uncovered evidence that our fair share housing attorney, Ed Buzak, actually walked Denville's residents through their housing agreement prior to their governing body taking official action. After we presented this evidence and repeatedly called for Buzak's ouster, the TC finally relented and replaced him. The Township Committee continues to deflect from their own failures by claiming that the attorneys gave them bad advice. They hide behind a misleading communication from the special master regarding negotiation confidentiality. Keeping negotiations confidential is not the same as keeping the resulting agreement confidential. This misleading document is still prominently posted on the town's website. The next policy failure is the settlement agreement itself. The agreement is one of the worst in the state. Our township agreed to allow for twice as many units as would be necessary to meet the legally required obligation. Maggie Miggins inexplicably included the 75-unit income segregated exclusionary dump housing project to help satisfy a portion of our obligation that could have been satisfied through simple zoning changes. Yesterday, our opponents claimed that the court decided where that project was going to go. This shows a deep misunderstanding of how the affordable housing settlement process works. The court does not make any demands, and in fact, the legal precedent is clear that the affordable housing obligation is not site-specific. The court would never insist that exclusionary housing be built on any specific site as part of the town's unmet need. Furthermore, the court is also clear that there is no need to affirmatively build units as part of a town's unmet need obligation. Courts operate based on rule of law and legal precedent, and the evidence does not suggest that fair share has a leg to stand on as it relates to forcing the dump housing project on our town. The last policy failure that our town has still not is that our town has still not formed a citizen advisory housing committee to help determine how we should address the issue of affordable housing going forward. The clock is ticking on the next round of affordable housing.
30
It
seconds.
seems that our township committee is planning to drag its feet yet again, just like it did when 5 years ago, they failed to file the plan on time, and that resulted in the builder's remedy lawsuit brought on by Silverman. And that's what really started this whole mess. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, our final response will be given by Bruce.
Thank you very much. So first, Frank, great idea to put a police officer at each entrance to town. Did you figure out, what is it, 30 extra police officers, 40 extra police officers? I don't know how we would ever do that. And Ben, I think you need a lesson in civics. The no vote meant that we wouldn't table it, so we would have to open it up to a public discussion and then take another vote as to whether to table it or not. That's all it meant. If the whole committee would have said no, then we would have had to have an open discussion. That's what I was looking for feedback from the people that were there. They applauded me for that, and they thanked me for that. And also, the golf course was not meant for destruction. I don't know where that came from. So the only policy failure that I see is the Republican Township Committee claimed that putting off affordable housing was a good idea. Actually, one of the Republican Township Committee members said, and I quote, "We do not know we had to even look at this." However, there are numerous successes in the Township Committee that had over a few years. Charu already mentioned some of those. There's flood mitigation, explore Millburn Short Hills, and public safety. I mean, just look at the vibrancy of downtown Millburn now. We had a vacancy rate of close to 16% at 2020. We now have a vacancy rate of 3%. How many towns could claim that? Since 2020, we added almost 100 new businesses to Millburn and Short Hills. I think that's some great successes that our Democratic Party has put together, and our committee is doing a wonderful job. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, now we get to the part of our program that all of our audience gets to participate in. And what we ask you to do, if you haven't already done so and you're considering doing it, please go to the chat where you'll find the link and you can submit your questions. Now, we're going to do now, give the candidates a break and give us a chance to see what questions may have been submitted since the debate started and people began taking their positions and people reacting to them. So we're going to take a 5-minute break, and then we'll come back and we'll begin by asking the candidates the questions. Once again, remember, you can ask direct your question to a single candidate. You can direct it to all candidates. And what we will allow is if a candidate wants to respond to another candidate's answer, then you have to signal to me, raise your hand or otherwise request it, and we'll allow you to give a very brief response. So with that, according to the official clock, it's 7:55, and we'll reconvene at 8 o'clock. Thank you. So as soon as we get everybody back on board here, we can begin with the audience questions. What are we missing?
Still Frank, but it just turned 8.
My mother said I was never early for anything, but I guess I made
That's
an
it.
exception tonight. All right, we have everyone. We're ready to begin now. Reminder that the answers to these questions should be no more than 2 minutes. So the first question is, we'll start with an easy one. It's addressed to all of you. And the question is this: how many township committee meetings have you attended in the last 2 years? And how many times have you spoken about a pending issue, ordinance, or approval? And I would ask Sharu to begin with that.
Thanks for the question. I have been to township committee meetings for a lot of times, and recently I was there in the township committee until the whole issue, hearing all the issues, respecting our residents, taking their concerns. And I would have to say I was the only one. And Frank and Ben had left the township committee. They might have been coming, but they would leave very early. And they left early. They think there is just one single issue in the town. But I know, since I have been following this, public safety, there is flood mitigation efforts, there is transparency that needs to be really fixed. Then there is historic preservation thing which was going on. And last time when I attended Historic Preservation Committee, I voiced out the concerns along with the residents and firmly said no, that there has to be more transparency in the whole process, more knowledge transition to our residents, and I firmly stand with them. Well, Ben and Frank didn't even show up and were not even voicing with the residents. So I stand with all the residents. I speak to them in the past few months and the days. Both Bruce and I have been speaking to hundreds of residents, and I would have to say, public safety, historic preservation. I do not, like Annie says, I do not like DPW. I have been against Woodland Drive, but hey, this again, I would have to say, we had been pulled into this kind of overdevelopment issue because our Republican candidate, our Republican government did not do this for the last 30 years. And I have brought this forth in the township committee many times that, hey, there's a plan. There's a plan. We have to, fast forward 2025, we do not want a repeat of what happened in 1975 when we had lower obligation to build the houses. 109, which has jumped to 800% because of the neglect and the negligence of the Republican-controlled township committee. So we need to make sure we have the right and the strong leadership, and Bruce and I are willing to go to states, legislatures, and fight and have the right sensible development in our town.
Thank you. All right, Frank, we have your response, please.
Absolutely. So I have attended numerous, like far too many to count, township committee meetings. I've also attended township affordable housing info sessions. And I encourage everyone to go on Millburn's YouTube channel and watch the meetings going back for the past year and a half. You'll see that Ben and I have been at far more meetings and have spoken at far more meetings than Bruce and Charu. That's a simple fact. And in instances where I couldn't be at the meeting in person, I participated via Zoom. And you know what? We have the receipts to prove that, because we have someone that Oprah'd every single one of the Zoom logs after every meeting. So those documents are available, and I'd be happy to post them to our website so everyone can see. I also find it interesting that Bruce and Charu, claim to have really been involved with the community and spoken out against affordable housing, yet they weren't at the affordable housing info sessions. I never saw them at meetings speaking out against it last year. I'd never heard them proposing alternative solutions, last year when the proceedings were still underway. I also never saw them send letters to the courts. Our team has sent many letters to the courts for the various proceedings. So, look, I'll let the public decide, but I think it's quite clear that I have been very involved with township committee meetings, and other information sessions that the town has had on important issues, such as the one
30
about
seconds.
fields. I don't remember seeing Bruce and Charu at the meeting about the fields and the par 3 golf course. So look, I'll let everyone do their own research, and I think they'll find that Ben and I have been far more active. Thank you.
Thank you. Bruce, would you respond to that question, please?
Sure, absolutely. I don't really take attendance, so I don't remember how many meetings I've gone to. I'm sure there are meetings that I've gone to before you guys moved into town. And I go to quite a bit number of meetings. I actually speak to one of my friends who occasionally comes with me, and we try to guess who's going to say something and what they're going to say. And sure enough, we're usually right, because it's the same thing that's being said, the same comments that are said over and over and over again. It almost becomes like a game. So because I don't say anything, it means I don't really have anything to complain about. Most of the comments that come in a township committee are complainers. You really don't hear anyone come out and thank the committee for what they're doing. Or they may say thank you, but then they complain. So, just because we don't say anything doesn't mean we're not involved. I am involved with the committee, with the community rather. I am on the Historic Preservation Commission. I don't see either one of our opponents being on any commission. Frank said yesterday that none of his friends are able to select him. I don't understand that, because when I got on the Historic Preservation Commission, I blindly filled out a form saying I'd like to be involved in something in the town, and I was selected to be on the Historic Preservation Commission by people that I never met before. So I'm not so sure what he's talking about. I don't see why going to meetings is volunteering. I think it's more important to actually be on a committee or a commission. That's my opinion. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Ben, may we have your response?
Yeah, I've been to dozens and dozens of meetings over the last 2 years. I've seen literally Charu at 1 or 2 meetings, probably 2. I've seen Bruce at maybe 3. One time he was asleep, probably missed a par 3 destruction while he was asleep. This is one of the questions that really mean a lot to people, to understand, get involved, understand the issues, take their personal time and invest them in our community so that the future generations can have a better place to live. That's about it.
Okay, thank you. All right, our second question. Our resident asks, what economic benefits and challenges are posed to Millburn Township by the significant building of large apartment buildings in town? And I'd ask Frank to begin the response to that.
So, we're going to face significant challenges from all the new buildings coming up in town. And one of the biggest challenges is probably going to be our sewer system infrastructure. So it was interesting. I was actually talking to a DPW worker who reached out to me, actually, who's responsible for the sewer pumps for the town. And he was telling me that right now, Upper Millburn Ave already has backups routinely because of sewer capacity issues. And then he also told me that the Metropolitan, which isn't even in our town, is going to be tying into our system. And so we're going to have a lot more sewage going through, and we don't have additional capacity. So then when we have a building like Annie Says come online, in addition to the Wells Fargo and the 75 unit dump housing project, we're going to have a lot of extra sewage, right? So I don't know how all of that is going to be handled. And we've asked the township about this, and they haven't really given us answers as to whether or not we're going to have proper sewer capacity. They haven't done any studies as far as we can tell. So I think it's going to be a major issue. The other major issue that we're going to face with all of this new development is that, we already have bad traffic problems as it is. And if we continue to build and build and build, we're going to have even more traffic. There's already days where, if you go out at the wrong time of day, it'll take you forever to get through the downtown. And this is something that was made worse by the street closures all summer, right? So look,
30 seconds.
We're a town that was designed to be a suburban town. If we keep adding more and more buildings, we're not going to be the same suburban town that we once were. And we don't have the infrastructure and the roadways and the resources to support all of these additional buildings. So at some point, we're going to have to say enough is enough, and we're going to have to find a better solution. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Bruce, what is your response?
Sure, if it wasn't for the Mount Laurel decision, we probably wouldn't have all this building. We don't really have any choice. This is what is court mandated. It's the law in this state. We can't fight it anymore. Every single town that went to fight this issue has lost. We could spend tons of money and try to fight the additional buildings for affordable housing. We're not going to win. Just look at Englewood Cliffs. They went and spent a ton of money in legal fees to try to fight it, and then they lost. And now they're in a much worse situation where they have to build significantly more housing than they would have had they just settled to begin with. So it's really not a choice about building. Believe me, if it was up to us, of course we would have wanted all this building going on, but we really have no choice in what we do. That's the law of this state, and that's the law that we have to follow. It would be great if we can sue, but who has that much money and then ultimately to lose? It's just a waste of money. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Ben.
Sure. So just to respond to that, Bruce and Sharu have already given up. Frank and I are here to fight the affordable housing and the project at the dump. Right now, with that attitude, we'll never win. Livingston has been successful in fighting off a project, so has Westfield. When we look at what they do, it's all about the attorneys and the instruction given to the attorney. At a township committee meeting, which Bruce and Sharu were not at, I stood up and asked our new affordable housing attorney, why does it say on your website that you're a zealous advocate for your customers, yet you're not fighting for us, the town residents, like you are doing in Livingston? And he was successful in Livingston. His comment back to me was, well, the 5 people on this township committee have given me the order to go, and the order is just accept it. And that seems like what Bruce and Sharu are doing right now. In terms of untold sums of money, what about school overcrowding? Getting new educators? What about the environmental tolls and the municipal cost for fire and police? We have to calculate that, and it should be done before these buildings go up, not after.
Is that it? Okay, thank you. At this point, I'm going to ask our president, Dave Cosgrove, to read some of the questions that have just been.
Wait.
Oh, yes. I had a senior moment, as they kindly say, and I was thinking of Dave and not you, and I apologize. So why don't you give us your response to that?
Thanks. So, well, I would like to begin to say that talks about inexperience, immaturity, and just being present in township committee meeting, and not listening to all the proceedings and not understanding and comprehending is another thing. So the perfect example is that in one of the previous township committee meetings, it was made clear that the code had said she is holding Millburn feet to the fire, and she was devastated and not happy by how the things are moving so slowly. And she wants the agreement from our RDP for the 75 affordable housing units when the township committee was fighting for it. And she needs it to be done by December. So I'm surprised to see that how, they wouldn't understand. That looks how inexperienced and how immature are to understand this whole process. Like I explained before, affordable fair share housing is a nonprofit organization that comes to the township committee along with codes, pick up the sites, and ask for the houses to be built. Has this been built 30 years ago? We were just obligated to build 109 houses. And Livingston had met the obligation, and right now, they just had to make 20% of what Millburn has to build. So start speaking the truth. Second is the traffic. Traffic is something that I really want to have more in a constructive way. We need to work on and finding more good traffic flows.
30 seconds.
How we can make sure that we have the right infrastructure and planning, and both Bruce and I have the right experience, the financial background to make sure that we have the right economic growth in the town, and even work on having the right taxes for all of our residents and make sure that every dollar counts for all of our residents in Millburn. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Do you have some questions for them, Dave?
I do. Can everyone hear me all right? Okay, very good. These are additional questions that have come in since the first batch. And this is a question for all the candidates. And it's, what steps will you have the TC take to mitigate the effects of climate change and create a more sustainable Millburn? And Tom, I'll let you Tom, you're doing the order, so I don't know who's
All right,
next
all
in
right,
order.
that's fine. Okay,
Thanks.
we had a little, yeah, well, Frank, you've raised your hand, so why don't you begin the responses?
Sure. So we actually participated in a candidate environmental forum that I would encourage everyone to go watch because we outlined very detailed plans of what we will do for the environment. But I'll go over just a little bit of that now. One of the things that we can do to help mitigate the effects of climate change is to look at the issue holistically. So just as we have a master plan for our town for planning purposes, we should have a sustainability master plan. And some other, actually, one other town did this. The town of Dunellen, they created the first climate resiliency and sustainability plan. And I actually spoke to the mayor of Dunellen to get a lot of detail about their plan. And their plans do things like tackling flooding issues. Their plans also do things like promoting the use of electric vehicles, increasing opportunities for having electric vehicle charging stations throughout the town. And we really need to have a centralized plan that we can refer to and that we can have guide our town on all these environmental issues. Some other things that I've personally proposed at planning board meetings, when the NESAS, for instance, was in the planning board stage, I had suggested that they be required to pre-wire every single one of the 300 parking spaces they're going to have for EV chargers. Because as many of you probably know, I think it's 2035, New Jersey's not going to allow the sale of any new internal combustion vehicles. So we want to make sure that our
30
town is
seconds.
ready for that. And that's something that we should be requiring for, perhaps all parking spaces. So another thing that we want to do is promote the use of native plant species throughout the town. And we would start specifically by requiring the township to make sure that all of their plantings are native species. So definitely check out that environmental forum we participated in because we have a lot more information, and I'm aware that I'm almost out of time. So thank you.
Thanks very much. Bruce, would you like to respond to that question?
Yes, sure. So we've also participated, and you could, in the same type of event, and you can see what our comments were. Some of the things we're considering is we'd like to get rid of some of the gas blowers that landscapers use, because that gives off more gas fumes than a car that would go 500 miles. We are also very big with electric cars. Both Charu and I drive cars that are on electric. We would like to see more electric charging stations in town. Right now, there's only 2. I don't understand why there aren't many. We would have to drive far. I understand that one of our opponents does have an electric car, but the other one drives a car that only gets 12 to 14 miles to the gallon. What does that do? He also sprays toxic chemicals on his lawn. I don't think toxic chemicals should be allowed in Millburn to be on the lawns. I think that also is bad. Maybe allow people, I think in the month of May, not to cut their lawns, which would give more grass and weeds so that the insects have a place to develop more places for bees. And I have
30 seconds.
I have many shrubs at my house that just are for attracting bees and butterflies. I would hope that more people in town would do that. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Ben, what response do you have?
Sure. Well, I do drive a car that gets 12 to 14 miles a gallon, but I only drive it about 3,000 miles a year because I take the train into Manhattan. So I think that is probably, from a reusable standpoint, the best course of action, and it's paid for. Promoting pedestrian and cyclist friendly infrastructure in Millburn, I think, is huge for safety for our children. and then promotes riding a bike to school and such. Right now, with the congestion on the overbuilding and the new buildings that Sharu and Kramer cannot stop, we can contribute to a more sustainable community by making these lanes bike lanes and making more walking friendly lanes. And also making up the paths up to the South Orange Mountain more navigatable. From where I live, it's a little difficult to get up there when you go the back way through the reservation. So from that standpoint, very straightforward. We were at the pollinator garden today. Frank and I were talking to the children. Fantastic going forward. I'm not sure who sprays chemicals. I pay for a heck of a lot more to get the natural sprays to remove to keep the yard friendly. So thank you.
All right, thank you. Sharu, what response do you have?
Well, we also attended the Climate Resiliency and Environmental Sustainability meeting. I am a firm believer on having our environment more clean and more green. And in my bit of share, I always, promote pay as you throw in my home as well by giving incentives. And this is something that I want to bring into our community as well, to promote reuse, recycle, and reduce the waste. And by that, we can incentivize anyone who is reducing the waste in the home. That's one. Second is to use the native plants. That is really useful for our healthy and sustainable environment. We have to make sure that we do efforts of water conservation, conserve water like through practices like fixing leaks in our houses, water efficient appliances, and collecting rainwater for outdoor use, which many other cities have been using it. Sustainable transportation. We need to have more safe pedestrian safety crosswalks so that our children and our residents can bike in a more safer way. We need to support renewable energy. We need to preserve biodiversity in our town and make sure that we have the right tools to make our climate more resilient and make our environment more greener for Millburn and make it sustainable.
Thank you. Dave, you have another question for the candidates?
I do. I will say, before I start with the next question, I did receive another note from the audience that Bruce and Sharu, I think because you're sharing the camera, when one of you is answering, it's cutting off part of your heads, side. So maybe when you answer, if one of you could just be more centered, that looks better to me right there. So thank you, folks. So the next question I had is on athletic facilities, and the question is: can athletic facilities be enhanced in towns such as ice rinks, YMCA type facilities, a modern gym, etc.?
Okay.
And it's for all.
For everybody. All right. Why don't we then? Well, I'm going to ask Bruce to give us the first response.
Mm.
Didn't mean to get you in mid-sentence.
If I take a drink. I wish we had all the land to be able to do that. I would like also to see the high school work with the township so that we can use their fields, not just for the high school itself. I'm a little concerned about having turf fields. I'm not so sure it's good for the environment or for the health of our children. I know that they require less maintenance, but I think over time, it could only hurt most of our students. We have added fields to the field. We actually added 2 fields at TVJ for the sports programs. I don't, I wish there was more land for more fields. I just don't know where we'd ultimately put them.
Thank you. All right, Ben, what response do you have?
Sure, I could sit here for hours and talk about fields. I've coached and been on every field in this township for years. The first thing that we need to do is improve our venues. I mean, really, we're supposed to be one of the most affluent towns in the state, yet our venues are terrible. They're dilapidated. We need better lighting in Giro Field. We need better fields for cricket. We don't need to destroy the par 3, but we do need to invest in our infrastructure on complexes for our community. Charles talks about economic activity. Well, that will actually help with the economic activity by investing in those fields. Right now, we have plenty of room to build, Annie says, Woodland and the dump project. How about open space and buying some of those spaces and using those for the fields? It was my idea at the township committee to communicate with the BOE. Once again, I have no idea why the BOE has been for years stiff-arming the rec department from using their fields. There needs to be, it's called scheduling, and we optimize the scheduling. If they're having fields that are used, 60% of the time, we should get the other 40% should be offered. The jewel of our town are our children, and we need to make sure that they have the fields to play in, not just be on their iPhone all day.
Thank you. Shrew, may we have your response?
Thank you. As a mom of two, my children and the children of all the residents is a priority. I have been a very, very active advocate to promote more open spaces in our town. We still don't have a cricket field right now. We still don't have much open spaces where our kids can go and play, freely, bike freely. We don't have the right bike lanes. And I really want to see more bike lanes coming in, more open spaces. Why can't we repurpose, the grounds which we have at the school for more open spaces, for more activities, which will in turn will have more economic growth. People can come in not from neighboring towns as well. They can have more sports activities, and then they can shop in our downtown as well. So in fact, it will promote more activity for our kids, promote more economic growth for our town. And this is what I had been advocating for many, many times. This is where I want to see our town to be growing more. We need to have more lights in a lot of our parks, like Giro Park. And that's where I mentioned before that in a parking space in a Giro Park, we need to have more lights. By working together, by open communication, by transparency, by working with our town planners, I want to have more open spaces, right infrastructure that will not only promote economic growth, but will be beneficial for our children as well. Thank you.
Thank you. In our last response, we call upon Frank.
Thank you. So I've talked to many residents, and there's definitely a concern that we don't have enough fields or field capacity in town. So one of the things I think we need to do, and others have said this, we need to work with the BOE to make sure that we're properly sharing all of the fields. And we should look to add lighting to fields so that we can extend playable hours. And in areas where lighting might intrude on residents, we should make sure that we involve those residents in the decisions. But I will tell you, the new LED lights that they have are very good at limiting, light spillover. So there's a lot we could do there. And if after optimizing the use of all the available fields in town, if we find that we still need more fields, then let's come up with some locations that the town can either buy or rent. Let's put it to a referendum and see if the town residents want to spend money on it. And if they do, great, we can go ahead and build. And if not, we'll find some other options. The other thing that's interesting is if we didn't build the housing, the dump housing project, then we wouldn't have to move the DPW site. And then we could use the land that the town owns on JFK Parkway that they're currently using for leaf composting, and we could make that into fields, right? Another option, if we didn't have to build the dump housing project, we could have used the DPW site potentially for fields, and we wouldn't have to dig up the DPW site, and we wouldn't have to risk releasing any of those toxins out. So that's another option as well. So there's a lot we can do, and there's a lot we will do. I'm personally going to be very interested in the results of the updated recreation portion of the master plan are going to be, because I think that will help guide us and allow us to make informed decisions on how we can best improve the use of existing fields and allow us to know what we need going forward.
All right, thank you. All right, our next question submitted to us is the following. Transparency and communication of the Township Committee are absolutely critical in the next round of the negotiations of the affordable housing settlement. What are your standards of sufficient transparency, and what are the specific measures that you will implement to better involve residents in the Township Committee's decision-making process? And I would ask Ben if you would begin on this.
Sure, that's a great question. Frank and I have been advocating for a citizen action group for the last 2 years. The people sitting there feeding answers to Sharu and Bruce should probably have that answer. We have not had that citizen action group put in place yet. It must happen. We must have a group of residents involved on every decision made when it comes to the affordable housing, for the simple reason is we've been kept in the dark for so long. Kicking the can down, all of that's nonsense. You can go on and look at our website. We'll take you exactly through the journey of how we got to where we are. Sharu and Bruce do not understand it. Their myopic approach is crazy. It is not closed for business. We can open it back up, and Frank and I will.
All right. Thank you. Sharu, what is your response?
Transparency and communication is really important. And let me tell you, the way you're reading the answers, you have been feeding me more. We are very, very natural. And I don't know what to say, how you say somebody is feeding. Well, it looks on you if somebody is feeding you the answers. So, well, transparency and communication is the most important thing. And I instill the township committee has to be more transparent. This needs to be really, really brought up to the residents, hearing the residents out, understanding their concerns, make sure that every resident input is taken in every strategic decision making of the town. And I am here to listen intently, respond, work together, work with the town planners, and communicate to all the residents of Millburn that, hey, this is the action that we are taking. Regarding the affordable housing, like I mentioned before, Millburn was only obligated for 109 units when the time was right in 1991. Why wasn't it met? And look at the mess that we are in right now. I oppose overdevelopment. I oppose the NSS and the DPW side, but affordable fair share housing team, they came to the township with the codes, with the developers, with builders remedy lawsuit on Millburn, with these sites chosen, and they have to comply with. And what Ben has been suggesting is to again go in litigation and
30 seconds.
waste dollars of our tax-paying residents in Millburn. This is what we want. Tell me a single town that has fought inside the court against fair share housing and has won. Tell me. I'm here with the plan, Fast Forward 2025, to work with the state to make sure that we have the right plan for our town, to fight for our Millburn residents, and make sure that we can modify the laws and we can hire the best attorneys come 2025. If they are
Stop,
selected
please.
here,
Thank you.
right, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Frank, what's your response?
Sure. So we recognize that towns have failed in their efforts to fight back against fair share in the past, but it's important to understand that this is because they tried to shirk their RDP obligation. We have an entirely different set of circumstances in our town because the dump project that we're going to fight back on is part of our unmet need, right? And an unmet need has no legal obligation to be affirmatively built. There was no legal precedent here because no town was bamboozled into satisfying unmet need with an exclusionary housing project, like what happened in our town. What we know is that the legal precedent is clear. There is no need to affirmatively satisfy units as part of a town's unmet need obligation, and affordable housing is not site-specific. Any claims otherwise show a deep misunderstanding of how the fair share housing process works. And again, one of the first things we're going to do is form the Affordable Housing Citizen Advisory Committee. This is something that Ben and I have asked for in meetings time and time again, and the current administration has refused to do it. Why? And aren't we just going to get more of the same if we have Bruce and Sharu in there? And the other thing we'll do is we'll have info sessions well in advance of any affordable, well in advance of the 2025 round of affordable housing. And we will make sure that every resident knows these info sessions are happening and knows that it's in their best interest to attend. We'll send out letters, we'll send out text blasts, we'll even put ads on Facebook and Instagram. We need to get greater community engagement.
30 seconds.
Have increased transparency. And Ben and I commit to complete and total transparency. Also, Ben and I are the candidates that have studied and understand the affordable housing laws. I've spoken to dozens of attorneys throughout the state. And the thing that they've told me is if you're unhappy with the current affordable housing settlement agreement, then you need to change the composition of the township committee so that the town can get the proper attorneys to fight for the town. The other thing we'll do is we'll join the lawsuit 13 other towns have going against the governor to have them reconstitute COA so that we can bring affordable
Stop,
housing
please.
out of the courts and back into the legislature. Thanks.
Thank you. Um,
And Tom, the question was asked by Sharu and Bruce. What-
Whoa, come on. Got the rules.
Are we breaking the rules again?
we're
Bob?
no, we're going on to the next question.
We could respond.
Don't I get a chance to?
All right. I'm sorry. No, you're right. I got a little distracted there by the comment. Yes, part of the rules is, and we'll use it now, and we said it before, but we'll say it again, that if anyone wants to respond to some answer given by another candidate, let me know, and I am being alerted to that fact. And that applies, of course, to all 4 candidates. So just so we have it clear, who wants to make a response here?
I do. It's very quick. Sharu asked
Good.
what have sued and won. Livingston, Summit, and Westfield. Do your homework. They fought it. Okay, that's it.
Okay.
And that's what it,
So-
can I?
Is this a counter response, all right?
Yeah.
Make it brief, if you would. Thank you.
Yeah, we know that. And that's why I asked, and I was expecting this answer because we have done more research and we are better fitted to understand financially. That has caused a lot of fines on the towns whoever has fought it. Look at Englewood. When they fought it, they lost it in the court. We don't want any more fines incurred on our taxpayer residents in our town. Court has mandated that it is going to hold Milburn feet to the fire. If we do what these candidates are saying, that they are not going to meet the obligations now, come 2025, we have 800% increase
seconds,
in their
please.
negligence. It will be double or tripled, and we will be under overdevelopment again. I oppose overdevelopment. I oppose any SACE project, but this was the mess created by the Republican-controlled township committee.
Okay, thank
Can I
you.
counter? Can I counter?
Well,
Let me
I don't
counter, 'cause
think-
I haven't had a chance to.
let's just everybody take a breath
Yeah.
here and let's.
I have any.
All right, wait. We're going to get to everybody. Ben, we're not having rebuttals to comments, all right? So Bruce, you didn't make a comment. If you want to make a very short comment, we want to have other questions. And really what we like to do is get as many audience questions as we can, because after all, those are the people voting. You're also muted.
So I didn't have my first 2 minutes yet.
Yeah, but I'm not preventing you. I'm just saying that if you would, that's fine. And I just, and we can move on to the next one, but by all means, tell us what you'd
So
like.
I've heard a lot of false claims here. I really didn't want to get into the whole thing about the affordable housing. The courts have mandated what we have to do. There's no way we can fight it. That's a done deal. It's false. What we want to do, nice we have a committee, and that's fine, but we'd like to advocate for residential roundtables by bringing in as many residents as we can with small groups to hear what they have to say and then bring it to the entire township committee. Sharu and I have honest and open conversations with people. That's what we want to do with the township. It's very important to be very honest with everyone, not give false claims. There's no way this could be fought. Good luck. If there was a way, believe me, we would do it.
30 seconds, please.
All right, well, I'll give you more time. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right.
I
Okay.
didn't get the chance to rebut. So,
right.
It's clear to me that Charu and Bruce just don't understand the fair share housing and affordable housing laws, because Charu said multiple times that other towns have incurred fines. Well, fines are not one of the mechanisms courts have available to enforce affordable housing laws in the state of New Jersey. Courts can order certain things to happen, but they don't issue fines. That's not part of the enforcement mechanism. So for Charu to say that other towns have faced fines, that's grossly inaccurate and misleading. And that's unfortunate.
Okay. All
Can I
right.
say that that's false?
No,
Englewood
we've already.
For the fine.
I thought we weren't.
I'm going to move on to the next question. We've already had some comments on this, and I think we need to move along, given the time and that we have other people who would like their questions to be asked. So the next question, and then I'll turn to Dave, is straightforward one. Please share your views on current and, if applicable, future flood mitigation measures, specifically in the South Mountain and downtown areas. So I'm going to ask Ben to begin with that.
Sure. So living over by South Mountain and understanding the complexity of what's happening today, I've met with multiple engineers here in town and the flood mitigation members of the flood mitigation committees. Right now it seems that locally we can solve it by apparently dredging and emptying out Taylor Pond every time it's about to rain, like we had last week, where 8 inches was expected and we got a ½ inch. Or we can work with federal and state Corps of Engineers to properly address the issue at the core. That's what needs to be done. I know we're working through it with Essex County and trying to get to that. Alex, our business administrator, just opened up a avenue path forward on doing that. It's imperative that we stop it where it originates, not at the end.
Okay, thank you. Sharu. You're mute.
You're mute.
Can you hear me? All right.
Great.
Flood mitigation is definitely an important thing in our town. It has impacted South Mountain area, Glenwood area, and our downtown. We need to make sure that why this is happening in our town. There are 2 valleys that run through our town, and the lowest point of these 2 valleys form the rivers, which is Rahway River East Branch, Rahway River West Branch, and Van Winkle Brook Branch. In heavy rains, these rivers expand beyond their banks and leaves, and this causes the flooding in some low-lying areas in our town. Rahway River West Branch actually, if the river floods, it will impact the Glen Avenue, downtown, Washington, and Western South Mountain area. If the Rahway River East Branch floods, it will impact Milburn Avenue from Cypress to Vauxhall and Ridgewood Road near Gilbert Place. And if Van Winkle Brook floods, it will impact Woodland, Meadowbrook, Glenwood Avenue, and Milburn Avenue. This shows how vulnerable our town is with our flooding. What our flood mitigation committee has come up with projects such as home elevation, where it is working with 3 residents right now who are very heavily impacted to have their home elevated. That will reduce the water to be clogged inside their homes. Second is the pipeline projects, where in the South Mountain area, they have started installing pipelines so that the water that comes very quickly, it can be drained out quickly. And we can see when it rained last time, it did not impact that much in South Mountain.
30 seconds.
And also we have the Orange Reservoir project, where Alex McDonald, our business administrator, is working very hard along with flood mitigation committee members to make sure that we have the Orange Reservoir, the Taylor Park project instated so that we are better prepared for flood. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, Frank, would you give us your views on the flood mitigation question?
Absolutely. So while some steps have been taken by the current flood mitigation committee, flood mitigation is incomplete. So what we'll do is we're going to continue with the existing work that they're doing, the stuff that's effective, but we're also going to look to enhance it with some common sense solutions. So during Ida, one of the reasons the downtown backed up is because a car and a dumpster went into the drainway and blocked it, and then all the water spilled onto the street, right? So if we did something as simple as installing angled grates in that area, that would have made it so that if the dumpster and the car did go over, they didn't totally block the waterway. And that would have helped quite a bit. The other thing that we can do is we can have enforcement of parking restrictions, right before there's big storms, so that we don't have cars going over into the drainways, right? We can also require restaurants to chain up their dumpsters so they don't get swept away like they did in Ida. The other thing we have to do is we have to work with the county. We pay so much in terms of taxes to Essex County. Why aren't we getting more help from them? We would advocate to get more public funding from the county. The other thing that we'll need to do is we'll need to work with the Army Corps of Engineers to attack the problem at the source. We have 2 rivers that are feeding in, and holding back a river is going to take a lot more resources than we have available at our disposal. So we really do need to work with state and federal officials to tackle this problem at the source. The other thing is we need to have the climate resiliency plan that I've touched on earlier. We need to make sure that future development in town doesn't make flooding worse, right? If you have a lot of
30
development,
seconds.
there's a lot more impermeable surfaces, that's going to cause more flooding. We need to make sure that any building that we do is going to take this into account and make sure that we're not making the existing problems worse. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Bruce, what are your views on this question?
Well, this is pretty hard because a lot have said that I already agree with. I mean, one of the things about Shrew and I is that we come up with a lot of the same solutions, and sometimes we come up with completely different solutions. Everything that she said, I fully agree with, but we also have to be sure that zoning and planning must be compliant to make sure that they also take whatever they're looking at as it affects flooding or the flood mitigation. Again, I look at what Shrew had said. It's kind of what I would said. She stole my thunder. So I really don't have that much more to say other than, again, it's all in the planning and relying on our flood mitigation committee, which has really done a great job. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, I'm going to ask Dave if you have some questions, Dave, that came in that you would like to ask the candidates.
Yes, yeah, and we're getting close, I think, Tom, to the end here, but I'm going to try to combine two questions. I'll just ask the two questions, and then you folks, it's relating to residents being able to speak at TC meetings, correct? But I'll read the two of them, and you probably can combine them and put together an answer. So the first one was, will any and all of you end the 3-minute public comment TC meeting rule? And the second is, would you add, paraphrasing this, would you add back the second public comment period to the TC meetings?
Okay.
So does that make sense? Could I just get a nod? The
Sure.
way okay, good enough. All right, folks, thank you.
Good. Well, we all understand the question. So let's hear your view, Shrew.
Yes, I am very much in favor of communication and hearing residents' input. I'm a big proponent of making sure that we listen intently to our residents, and I will have a second session of public where they can come in and voice out their concerns. And this is what I have been doing all the way along, working with residents, hearing their concerns, and come up with a plan which is transparent, which I can communicate and work together. We need to open the 3-minute time binder. If somebody wants to speak more, yes, I will encourage. I want to hear residents speak. I want to work with each one of you, and not your silences, not your voices silenced. I also want to bring up, in speaking to a lot of residents in the past few days, we have seen this kind of tactics, which was done by some Republican supporters to silence out our Melbourne residents by creating, fear-mongering tactics. This is what I want to really, really have it die down in Melbourne. Melbourne needs to be scare-free, and every resident should be able to speak their mind out. In every TC meeting, I want to make sure that they are speaking. They are speaking what they want to share. I hear their concerns, and we work together in consensus. Thank you.
Good, thank you. Frank, what's your response to this?
Sure. So I would absolutely increase the speaking limit for residents at township committee meetings. And I would also bring back the second comment period. Right now, we would figure out what reasonable limits are on either of these. But one of the things that we would do that I think would help reduce the amount of people that come in with comments that don't get answered is to allow residents to submit their comments in advance, the week in advance, and then we could read the questions and the answers right at the beginning of the meeting. So that way, if residents' questions were already answered, then they might not, need to use the speaking period, and that would help meetings move along much more efficiently. But I absolutely think that we ought to hear from every resident that has a concern, and we ought to make sure that we're committed to answering questions. Our current township committee often doesn't answer questions that are asked. And that's why some people have to go back week after week asking the same questions because they simply don't get answered. Ben and I commit to making sure that residents get answers to their questions. Our campaign has an email address and a phone number, and we've been fielding questions from residents throughout this campaign. We always answer residents' questions because it's important that residents know what's going on and have accountability and transparency from the Township Committee. And that's something that Ben and I commit to doing. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Bruce.
Thank you. I'm not so sure we can extend the 3-minute discussion. Those township committee meetings can go on quite late. What I would rather see are small roundtables with residents where we can set up some times to meet with them outside of the township committee meeting, and then bring some of that conversation back into the township meeting. And as the township committee members give a report should be given out as to what was discussed in some of those those small roundtables meeting. And I'm a strong advocate for that. Also, while I haven't had to do this, the township committee does offer their email addresses for people to write to them and ask questions. I don't know if anyone does that, or they would just want to do it in front of a camera. I'm not really sure, but I think that would be another way. Chu and I make one promise, and that's we're going to be extremely open to conversations with any resident virtually at any time. I've been getting emails from people now where I've just been giving them my cell phone number or my office number so that they can reach out to me to discuss whatever issues they have. So we're pretty open when it comes to that. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Ben, would you like to respond to this question?
Sure. And just to respond to Sharu, listen, if anyone's being disrespectful on our campaign, on our team, it's completely unacceptable. Send me you have my email, send it to me and I will take care of it. There's no place for hate in Millburn, please. To this answer, I agree with Bruce, actually. 3 minutes seems like enough time to come in with a nice answer and get your thought across. I completely agree there needs to be a second speaking time to rebut the quote-unquote bully pulpit from the folks on the dais. So as long as that comes through, we can do some analysis, find out when that needs to occur. But I do not think it is anywhere near acceptable to silence the voice of residents at a township committee.
Thank you. All right, Dave, do you have a final question that the candidates can address?
I don't have an additional one, Tom, unless you or even James has one that's in the list.
All right, let me look at a couple here and see if we can get one that I'm going to ask every candidate to make the answer brief because we want to go from here to your closing statements and make our advertised closing time. So let me ask you this question that has been posed by one of our residents. This resident says, allegations have been made about influence and pressure of county and state party leaders on decisions and contracts. Do you believe that these allegations have merit? And do you believe that such influence, is appropriate? If elected, how would you handle any attempts at such influence or coercion? If you give a brief answer to that, I would appreciate it. And I'm going to ask Ben to begin that.
Sure, great question. In fact, I was speaking to Diane Eglo this morning, and she sent me a copy of the letter that she had sent. She's the former Millburn mayor, 2019. And the title of the letter is Why I Parted Ways with the Local Democratic Party. I'm a lifelong resident of Millburn, as well as a longtime registered Democrat. I have served Millburn Township in volunteer positions for over 25 years, including 15 years on the MSH Volunteer First Squad. Over the last 6 years, I've represented township residents as mayor and now deputy mayor on the township committee. Until recent local events forced me to choose between the party and my conscience. I had no intention of leaving the local Millburn Short Hills Democratic Party. I first noted a problem with party politics when I was expected to hire firms that were promoted by the county Democratic Party to perform township work. I was forced to choose between obedience to the party and maintaining my integrity and commitment to serving the residents of Millburn Short Hills. That's a direct letter from the former mayor on the Democratic ticket.
30 seconds.
I'm just going to leave it at that. I was shocked to read that.
Okay. Sharu, what would you like to say about this question?
I would begin with saying that at the recent Historic Preservation Committee meeting, where I was voicing, along with many residents, against the transparency and the process that was being adopted by the Historic Preservation Commission, Ben and Frank didn't show up because their political bosses asked them not to. Well, this speaks volumes. I and Bruce both are very independent thinkers. We make sure that whatever we want, after listening to residents, come up with a policy after speaking with town planners, after working with our business administrator, and to do what is the best interest of our town. Look at the history. We have not been accepting any money from developers. They cry about overdevelopment and they take money from developers. They take money from their Republican, the chair Republican wives send them $5,200. That's the influence the Republicans are having from the
30
state.
seconds.
And we have not taken any checks and from what you call the bosses or from the developers. We are independent thinkers and we are here to work for our residents, with the residents, for the best interest of our town. Thank you.
Thank you. Frank, your response, please.
So I think the Diane Eglo letter is very telling, and I've talked to Diane about this. You know, when she was the mayor, she was pressured by Annette Romano and other party officials to hire certain party loyalists. That is unacceptable, and that is like borderline corruption, in my opinion. And I have no reason to believe that that wouldn't be continuing to this date. But what I do know is that Ben and I will not stand for any of that. The other thing is there is really no Republican machine in the state that would be telling us what to do. Ben and I are committed to moving to nonpartisan local elections. This is another reason why we want to get rid of partisan politics, because then you don't have political machines on either side doing anything to influence candidates, right? Our loyalty should be to the residents and only to the residents. And that's something that Ben and I will do for sure. You know, and I also want to respond to what Charu said. You know, Ben and I weren't at the recent Historic Preservation Committee meeting because we had read the letter that was put
30
out
seconds.
in Canfield publicly that said that there was going to be no vote taken on that matter, right? They said that this wasn't going to move forward. It was going to be tabled. And Bruce is the one that actually voted against tabling it, right? He wanted to advance it. Look at the article in the TAP. It clearly says he's the one that wanted to advance it. So, you know, I think he's disingenuous when he says that he didn't want to advance it. And also he knew about it. So, you know, look, I would look at who appoints the current committees.
Stop, please. Okay, final answer to this question. I'm going to ask Bruce to.
Thank you. Well, first of all, that Diane letter has been circulating for years. And quite frankly, I don't believe most of what's in there. As far as that no vote, take a look at the TAP article again. They corrected it because they were wrong. I voted that way just so that the people could speak. In any event, I'm even forgetting where the question was.
Well, it's a long question, but it has to do with allegations of political
I know, I'm just kidding.
interference.
So as a CPA, it's ingrained in me to be independent. CPAs are known to be independent. It's part of our license. We have to do that. There was no way that Charu and I would take any money. You know, they're taking a lot of Republican money and we're not. We'll talk about that later, but this is something that's ingrained in us. I'm extremely independent. If you look at any
30 seconds.
if you look at any financial statement or report, it's considered an independent report. So we are independent, and I would not expect to take any money or be influenced by anyone else. But I will tell you, we will try to work with others, but not be commanded by what they say. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, we now at the last part of our program, which is the closing statements. And these are 3 minutes. And I'm going to ask Ben to begin with his final statement.
All right, sure. I want to say my final statement is my vision for Millburn Short Hills. My vision is a thriving Millburn Short Hills Township unified in pursuit of excellence. A town with very low crime, a thriving economic infrastructure, a school system in the very top of national rankings. and a collaborative voice of our leadership. Millburn Short Hills must be a provocative thought leader on environmental issues and a leader in mental health issues for our children. We all thrive together harmoniously in the pursuit of these lofty goals. Hate has no place in Millburn. We should be a shining example for New Jersey, not a partisan wasteland. I've spent my entire career making real decisions and delivering, not just regurgitating a few sound bites on our website or gleaned from the internet. If you want real-world experience without biased decision-making, our ticket is the only one you should consider. Frank and I have spent many evenings over the last years showing up at TC meetings, zoning and planning meetings, going to court dates, and meeting with town residents. Our commitment is evident. We are here to unify, not divide our community. Remember, as Michelle Obama said, when they go low, we go high. Thank you to everyone who made this event happen. We will listen to all residents and manage this township with critical, methodical, and practical decision-making. We thank you for the opportunity to earn your vote.
Thank you. Bruce, would you give us your closing remarks?
Sure. This is what I was really going to say, but that's a great quote. That's kind of what we feel. Anyway, I think some of the facts really need to come out. Ben and Frank said that they switched parties to the Republican Party because they couldn't run as Democrats, but yet they never put their name into the hat to vote as Democrats in Millburn. Ben registered as Republican when he moved into Millburn in 2015. He only changed to a Democrat last year to vote in a closed primary, and then returned back to being a Republican, but he didn't even vote for himself in the Republican primary. And you ask for nonpartisan local government, why are you running as Republicans and not independents? If you look at the public information so far, you received 100% of your donations from Republicans, including, as Shrew said, $5,200 from the wife of the chair of the New Jersey Republican Party, who does not even live in Millburn. Politics start at the local level, and MAGA Republicans are pouring significant money into this election so they can control how this town is run. We love our town, and we must prevent MAGA Republicans from banning books and controlling our school curriculum by changing history. You talk about a political machine for us, but meanwhile, you are supported by the political machine of Republicans. You say you have no communication with local Republicans, but yet you accept all their money. The head of your ticket, Michael Byrne, was Donald Trump's campaign manager in New Hampshire and supports Moms for Liberty. Ask anybody on the school board what Moms for Liberty could do to our township. They'll tell you. And this just shows you who they are. You stole this is the most disgusting I can see. When I first tried to do our website with my first running mate, I found that our website name was stolen. It was registered by the same company that registered theirs 2 days after we announced we were running. What a coincidence. Then when Sharu and I had our website come out, our website was hit with malware 2 days afterwards. Also, what a coincidence. So I'm asking for your vote. Do you want to vote for candidates who serve with honesty, integrity? Please vote for the Democratic line B, Bruce Kramer and Cheryl Grew. Remember, when one man tells a lie, dozens repeat it as truth. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
All right, thank you, Bruce, I'm sorry. Frank, would you give us your remarks, please?
Sure. So real quickly, I have a couple points to rebut. True, you need to understand the difference between members of our campaign versus members of the public when it comes to online comments. Members of our campaign do not make any sort of disparaging remarks, and I have absolutely no control over what members of the public say online. Bruce, you know that the newest elect reports have not been filed yet. You're looking at data that's from the primary. Once you see our latest elect report, you'll also see that there's a minimal amount of donors that are Republicans. We have a lot of donors that are Democrats and independents. So with that, I'm going to move on to my conclusion. I would like to once again thank the Short Hills Association for sponsoring tonight's candidate forum. Thomas Jefferson once said, "The best defense of democracy is an informed electorate." And so I would like to thank all of you attending tonight's forum here to learn more about us. Ben and I have run a positive campaign, and that has garnered bipartisan and nonpartisan support from across the community. One of the pillars of our platform is to respect resident input. To that end, we have welcomed all Millburn residents to join our movement that transcends political party. More than half of our donors are Democrats and independents. Additionally, we have an almost equal number of Democrats, Independents, and Republicans volunteering for our campaign. This is evidence of our ability to unify rather than divide. We must all remember that there are no Democrat parks and no Republican schools and no unaffiliated roadways. When a classroom is overcrowded, it doesn't just affect the children of Republicans or the children of Democrats, it affects all of us. We are all Millburn. That is why Vote for Millburn is our rallying cry. For far too long, we have seen the divisiveness of partisan politics infect our community. We have committed to putting forth a referendum to let residents decide if they want to move to a nonpartisan form of local government. We are the only candidates committing to governing on behalf of all residents, regardless of party. Ben and I represent the change that our town so desperately needs to move past all of this partisan bickering to a more unified Millburn. If you'd like to learn more about our policies, please visit our website, voteformillburn.com, where you will find plenty of additional details about our platform. If you would like to get in touch with us, please feel free to call, text, or email us with the contact information on our website. Remember, don't vote for party, vote for yourself, vote for family, vote for kids, vote for Millburn. You can find us on Line A. Regardless of who you support, I encourage you to go out and vote, as voting is one of the greatest rights we have in our democracy. Maybe Chiru can use her conclusion to explain why she's never voted in the
30
US
seconds.
election, despite being able to vote since 2019. Thank you all and have a great night.
Okay, thank you. All right, we end our evening with you, Shrew, if you would give us the benefit of your closing remarks.
Sure. First, I would like to rebut what Frank just mentioned. Like I mentioned yesterday, it sounds like a broken record, which Frank keeps on coming back on my voting. Like I explained, I moved in 2004 in the United States and moved to Melbourne in 2016, and I became a citizen in 2019. And right after that, we had COVID in 2020, where I was a working mother with 2 kids, my son who was 3 years old, and I was volunteering extensively, unlike Ben and Frank, who has never been on any committees and who has been degrading our volunteers as well, which Frank has never yet apologized to our residents for their volunteering work. I was out there working with Millburn Inspire and other volunteering activities to help our residents during COVID times. And I was also figuring out how we can vote when it changed for a vote mail by ballot. And I was still figuring out how to do that and to learn on the candidates and the issues in our Millburn. So yes, voting is really important. And now coming on to Ben, who was suggesting about this, whoever has been feared by any of their Republican supporters. Well, I don't know if I can believe on Ben when he had been stalking me on the social media and had commented in a very dishonest and a deceitful and a disparaging manner where my kids are also online. That is the harassment we want from somebody who wants to lead a beautiful town. It's up to you to decide. In my closing, I would like to say, as a mother of 2, I understand we have the most at stake in our town's future, particularly when it comes to schools, education, public safety, and promoting economic development in Millburn, and have the right and sensible infrastructure. My opponents had been hiding behind blue boards, conceal their true identities, saying that they want non-partisan when they are running on the Republican ticket, and perpetuating scaremongering tactics against anyone who opposed them. Let's not forget, our residents had been fed into lies and dishonesty. My promise to you is I will listen intently, respond, and work together and be very honest and transparent. I will work on optimization of taxes, efficient use of every tax dollar. I will leverage my financial experience of multi-billion-dollar portfolios, handling multi-billion portfolios.
30 seconds.
Globally, I will improve public safety. I will safeguard our exceptional schools. I will provide sensible and smart development. I want to ensure in 2025, we have the best plan for affordable housing and not being increased like how it was increased by 800% because of the Republicans' neglect in their past township council. I seek for your support for a hate-free and a bully-free and a stronger and a positive Millburn. Thank you. Please find us on Line B, Bruce Kramer and Charu Goyal, and have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dave, I'm going to turn the program over to you to thank everyone and make your final remarks.
Yes, folks, particularly, thank you, Tom, for being our longstanding moderator. But for the four candidates, thank you very, very much for attending. I think these are very valuable, for people to watch, the residents to watch. And I think it's a good exercise for, frankly, for the four of you to gel your thoughts on, where you go and what you want to go, where you want to go regarding the town and initiatives. This will be, this has been recorded. It'll be posted as soon as we can. There may be a day or two involved if there's blank parts, like the 5 minutes break that has to be edited out or something like that. I will send all four of you an email separately, saying thank you. And I will be asking you too, whether you have any suggestions for next year on tweaks that we could make or changes that we could make, something that you think we could do better or change. So again, thank you very much. I really appreciate you putting the time aside.
All right. Thank you, candidates, and everyone who is watching. Don't forget to vote on November 7th. All right. Take care, everyone. Thanks again.
Well,
Good night.
everyone.